Aisha. Welcome to Share a Story. I am going to continue telling you the untold stories of a water dragon by Carmen Kardashian. As I was flying over the beach, I suddenly heard a cry of pain. I looked around, and what I found astonished me. Underneath the visible roots of a massive fallen tree, covered in the white foam of the ocean, lay a baby dragon, not bigger than Rona. I gently landed beside him, and I softly whispered, "Don't be scared. I am Tipsy. What happened to you?" The little dragon replied, "I am Alex, and I am a dragon, a flying dragon, but I believe I have broken one of my wings, as it is hurting me." Alex weakly mumbled, "The last thing I remember is taking flying lessons with my father when suddenly strong winds started to blow and a great tornado came and sucked me away from him in a swirling cloud of dust. I closed my eyes tightly in fright, and when I opened them again, I found myself here." "My heart felt so sorry for the wee dragon," said Tipsy. "Immediately, I gathered some seaweed, as I know it is a great healer, and patched his broken wing. From that day, we became very close friends. He couldn't fly anymore, but he could walk and he could run. We had great times playing hide and seek around the cave. Some days, we used to go searching along the beach for new curiosities. It was such a fun time getting to know each other." It was nearly lunchtime, and Kieran reluctantly had to get ready to leave. He had enjoyed the story very much. "As much as I would love to stay and listen all day, Tipsy, it is time to take my flock to the grazing patch up on the hills. I will see you, Nessie, and of course you, Tipsy, tomorrow morning." "Okay, I guess it is time for me to catch up on some sleep too. You see, I sleep by day, fly at dusk, and eat by night. I will bring you an apple from the barn tomorrow morning, Nessie. You never know, you may like it," hoped Tipsy. "That would be great. Thank you, Tipsy. I am looking forward to trying it, but mostly I can't wait to hear the rest of the story." Nessie sighed gently, splashing the waters with her tail, making very large waves. After all her friends had left, Nessie, exhilarated, dived back into the loch. It had been a very interesting morning, and she had learned so much about the existence of other worlds outside the glen. She was determined to take up Alex's offer and explore this world herself. She couldn't wait for that day to come. But for now, she couldn't share this dream with anyone, not even Poll or any other aquatic friends, as they would disagree and worry for her. As the evening approached, Kieran brought his sheep, fully fed, back to the farm. He told Kiri about the remarkable day. Before falling asleep, the collies had only one image in their heads. Both were drooling because of a vision: Tipsy's box of bones. Rona and Lutza too couldn't wait to hear the rest of the story. As the animals fell asleep one by one, their dreams took them on entertaining voyages. You could tell that by the peaceful and relaxed expressions on their faces. That night, Tipsy went back to his favourite place, the barn full of apples. He feasted and feasted until he fell asleep. Just before the crack of dawn, he was woken up by the sound of two men turning on engines. He watched as the machinery squeezed every last drop of juice from the apples in order to make cider. On the way out, Tipsy picked up an apple for Nessie, hoping she would like it, and off he flew back to the loch, where Nessie was already eagerly waiting for him. "Good morning, Nessie. I hope you had an enjoyable night," said Tipsy, full of the vigour of a spring morning. "Oh, how lovely to see you, Tipsy. I had a restless night and didn't sleep very much. I was too excited to hear the end of your story," an enthused Nessie replied. "I have brought you an apple. Hope you like it," added Tipsy. "Does Kieran bring Lutza, Rona and his flock to the loch every morning?" "Oh yes, Tipsy. It's one of the great joys of my life. They should be here any minute." Just at that precise moment, Kieran's bark echoed through the glen. "Good morning, everyone," Nessie greeted her friends. "Good morning, Nessie and Tipsy. Hope you are both well," Kieran replied. "We are ready for the rest of the story, Tipsy," added Rona. "Okay, so where was I? Let's carry on." And Tipsy started to narrate the story. As I said, Alex and I became very good friends, but I couldn't replace the emptiness in his heart, and he would often cry in his sleep, calling out for his mummy. The trauma of losing his parents to the great tornado haunted him, so I decided to ask every flying creature that had ever rested on the island if any of them knew of a country where dragons live, preferably flying dragons. Nobody seemed to know. Disappointed, I had very few options left. Perhaps one of my sea friends may have heard something. One day, I met my old friend Rose, a tortoise, who told me that years previous she had been swept from the ocean by strong currents. Strong currents are usually influenced by a full moon. The power of the moon is not to be overlooked, my friends. It controls the ocean's movement and creates a magical world full of tides. Rose told me how those forces and currents took her into new waters far from home until she found herself in a strange sea in the middle of another land. She discovered that she was in the Black Sea, not far from Transylvania. The waters there were too cold, and she returned to Wherefrom Island as quickly as she could. Before she left, Rose found out that Transylvania was home to a family of flying dragons. They lived in a range of mountains called the Carpathians. They often flew over the Black Sea in search of their missing son, Alex. He had disappeared during the day of the great tornado. It was said that they searched this mystic and mountainous land every day for their son. They were a legend in Transylvania, a place of great beauty. "The poor parents, they must have been devastated to lose their son to the great tornado," Nessie whispered, thinking how she lost her parents to the same natural force. Of course, what followed next was not an easy search for me either. With birds migrating to and from the island all the time, Rose and I asked our friend Anne, the albatross, to help us look for Alex's parents. Anne can stay on the wing for years without ever landing. She has a magnificent wingspan, which allows her to soar in the sky on the uplifting currents without even flapping her wings. She can see everything below her. She even sleeps as she flies. Anne loves a challenge and exploring new oceans, so she went in search of Alex's parents. Meanwhile, Alex and I went by the shore every day to scan the horizon for any signs of Anne and flying dragons. In the evening, we slept in the cave for safety. Suddenly, one morning, the whole island was shaken by a powerful roar. My first thought was, maybe today had erupted. Before I could say anything, in the corner of my eye, I saw Alex running as fast as he could towards the entrance of the cave, screaming at the top of his voice, "Daddy! Mummy!" I followed him outside, and to my astonishment, 2 colossal green dragons, bigger than all of you put together, were flying toward the cave. Anne had found them. At last, the family was reunited. "Oh, I'm so glad they found one another. Perhaps one day my mummy will find me too," Nessie cried out, full of joy. "Of course she will. Remember what your aquatic friend told you. What goes up must come down, eventually," added Rona. "What do you mean by that, Rona?" asked Tipsy, very curious. "Well, Nessie's mummy too was abducted by a great tornado. She and half of this loch were lifted up into the sky, never to be seen again. When this happened, Nessie was just an egg. Paul, the lobster, thinks her mummy may have landed somewhere." "I was told it was horrific, and I hope it will never strike our glen again," added Lutzer. Now, my friends, perhaps everything happens for a reason. We may not know why, but maybe one day all will be revealed," Tipsy reassured them. "So what happened next? How did Alex manage to fly to Transylvania with a broken wing?" asked Nessie curiously. "Alex was no bigger than Rona, Nessie. On the other hand, his daddy is one gigantic dragon. and so is his mummy. Alex hopped on his daddy's back, and I was beside him. I needed a change anyway, and, more importantly, I was worried that maybe today would go bang, and instead of a flying bat, I would become a frying bat. Tipsy answered, smiling back at Nessie. And the albatross came on our journey to Transylvania as well. Et voila! This is how their land became my home too. That's wonderful, Tipsy. Thank you for telling us this amazing story, barked Kieran happily. No problem, Kieran. I know it's nearly lunchtime now, and you have to leave. You go, my friend, and fatten up those herbivores of yours. I'm feeling peckish, so I'm going back to my fermented apples as well, joked Tipsy, fully sober by now. You will come back again tomorrow and tell us about Transylvania, please, insisted Nessie. Of course. If the weather allows, I will come back every morning before the end of the summer. It is then that I will make my way back to Transylvania in time for Christmas, replied Tipsy, pleased by how everything had turned out. After that, Kieran took Rona and the rest of the flock down by the river to graze. Nessie dived back into the waters, straight to her own cave, reflecting on how lucky she was not to have to worry about any volcano erupting. Her cave was her refuge, her sanctuary, and the place where she had been born. For that, she was grateful. Thank you for listening. Please come back tomorrow to find out what happens next.